Hari Om. With today's lesson, we will be continuing with Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, and from verse number 3. Now, in the first three verses, Lord Krishna is mentioning various divine qualities. These are the qualities that He has given, which we can use to assess our personality, and in that way we can know how sattvic or pure are we progressing on the spiritual path. Then in verse number 4, he will give us the demoniac qualities. And again, we use these demoniac qualities to assess if we have these qualities, and then if we are serious and committed on the spiritual path, we must ensure that we either minimize or totally eradicate these demoniac qualities. The more demoniac qualities we have, it means we are more rajasic or tamasic, and we are not progressing on the spiritual path. So we have seen several qualities over the last one or two lessons, and now we will carry on with verse number 3 with the next divine quality here, which is called adraho. So what does adraho mean? It means not taking up arms. So it means that when you have weapons or when you have some power or something at your disposal, to use that to suppress and oppress others. So a Kshatriya has weapons, but a Kshatriya uses the weapons for the protection of Dharma. They do not use weapons or power to destroy or intimidate others or to destroy Dharma. So droha means taking up arms with the intention of harming others. Adraho means not taking up arms with the intention of harming others. But for protection of Dharma, we use weapons or we use power, etc., our position to protect Dharma, to help others. That is a good quality. Next quality is na atimanita. Na means no. Atimanita means haughtiness, superiority complex. Whatever we have achieved, whatever great deeds we have done, whatever possessions we have accumulated, understand there are others who are doing even more greater work than us, who have even more possessions than us. So being thankful to the Lord for making us an instrument in doing good and great things and gracing us with whatever possessions we have is the very right attitude. So not having that ego for whatever we are praised sometimes or for whatever possessions we have, titles and honors. And there's a beautiful story told about when Hanuman, he found, after searching for Ma Sita in Lanka, he finally found her, and he was so excited he rushed back quickly to inform Lord Rama. He knew how anxious Lord Rama was in locating his wife. So when he approached Lord Rama, he uttered the very word Rama was waiting to hear. Hanuman said, "Found Sita, I." Hanuman had no ego. He was completely modest, always in the service of Lord Rama. He never said, "I found Sita." To him, I was not important. What was more important to him was to relieve the suffering of his master, Lord Rama. So he uttered the very first word he knew Lord Rama was waiting to hear, "Found." Then came Sita, and then only in the end comes I. So the I is always relegated. It's not important. Only the person with ego will say, "I did this, I did that." Such a symbol of modesty was Hanuman, and we must learn from the very character of Hanuman. So beautiful to read his stories and how he humbly served Lord Rama without expecting anything in return. So now Lord has given us all His qualities in verses 1, 2 and 3, and He summarizes what are all His qualities. So He says all these qualities that Krishna has mentioned up to now, he summarizes by saying that anyone who has these qualities in some proportion is fit to be called. He uses the word here in verse number 3. You can see in the third line of the Sanskrit text, Devi Sampat. Devi means divine, Sampat means nature. So the Lord is saying anyone who has some or all of these qualities in different measure, we may not have all the qualities, we may not have total one or two total qualities, but we might have a little bit of all qualities. So person who has this is called Devi Sampat, of divine nature. Any individual who any individual who leads a dedicated life of karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga will surely cultivate these virtues. So he says all these qualities bhavanti, they belong abhijatasya, to a person who is sampadam daivim, who is of divine nature. So again, to self-assess ourselves, it is very important we understand these qualities, and as much as we can to try to inculcate any of these qualities that we don't have. We must try to build up these qualities in us, and through various sadhanas we can then test whether we are progressing properly on the spiritual path. And Krishna ends this verse by addressing Arjuna as Bharata. Bharata means scion of the Bharata dynasty, to assure Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, you are a descendant. Scion means a descendant of the Bharata dynasty. Thus you have taken a very pure birth and you are fit to cultivate these values. So Bharata dynasty is a very prestigious, very humble, very honorific dynasty, and Krishna wants to remind Arjuna that you must live up to all these divine principles, the divine virtues. So now that Krishna has elaborated on the divine virtues, in verse number 4, he starts to talk about the Asuri Sampad, or demonical virtues, and he gives 6 demonical virtues here. Now, again, I must stress that whenever we come across these demonical virtues, it is a human tendency for us to always say, oh, this person has this virtue, this demonical virtue. We always try to put the negative qualities on other people. We must use these negative qualities to assess ourselves, and not just say that, oh, these are the demonical virtues, this person has got demonical virtues, that person has got this demonical virtue. It will be of no help to us. So a demonical person is one who gives more prominence to artha and kama goals in life. As you all know, we've talked about the 4 purusharthas: dharma, moksha, kama, artha. So artha is chasing after material possessions. Kama is satisfying all kinds of material desires. Whereas dharma is the spiritual pursuit, and moksha is to attain self-enlightenment. So a demonical person is one who gives more prominence to artha and kama, who has overbearing materialistic tendencies, even to the point of violating dharma. Because once these materialistic desires overpower us, we want to take all kinds of shortcuts. We want to quickly satisfy all his demands, and sometimes it's not possible. So we may resolve to what we call to violate dharma to achieve artha and kama. So what more to speak about a person to attain the goal of moksha? That's even out of the question. Now, Shastra, the scriptures, don't say we should not have artha and kama. Yes, all of us need to satisfy some desires. Of course, all of us have some possessions in our life. However, in the pursuit of artha and kama, one should remember never to violate dharma. So Shastra calls for leading a balanced life where regard is given equally to dharma, kama, artha and moksha. So what are the 6 demonic qualities now? Let us look at them. The first one that Lord states in verse number 4 is dambaha or ostentation. Ostentation is pomp and show when it comes to both material and spiritual aspects also. Showing off wealth, power, possession, when it comes to material achievements, constantly wearing and trying to show off all these branded items. And even when we are doing spiritual actions like yajnas, elaborate prayers, or dhanam, when we are giving charity, we want to do it with the purpose of showing off to gain attention that I'm doing such elaborate prayers and rituals, I'm giving so much charity. So dhamba is ostentation to show off both in material and spiritual line also. And this dambaha is at a physical level. Okay. Next quality comes dharpa or arrogance. With money and power comes arrogance, which is expressed verbally. So the earlier one, damba ostentation, was at physical level, what we wear, what we show off. Dharpa is more at the what we call, which is expressed verbally. How we boast about our power, we boast about our position and possessions. And we have seen this with characters like Duryodhan, Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, etc. Arrogance can come about as a result of their wealth or due to people around them who support them. It can be due to physical beauty, etc. Many causes for verbal arrogance. Next quality, ati manaha, great haughtiness, excessively ascribing to oneself a high degree of self-importance due to family lineage, status in society, etc. This ati manaha is not expressed, but it is experienced at mental level, where one thinks of oneself as a great and privileged person, and they expect people to bow down to them, to pay tribute to them, to garland them. So at all the 3 levels, we have dambaha, which is at arrogance at physical level, showing off. Darpaha, expressed verbally by boasting, and atimanita at the mental level, where we consider ourselves very great and very mighty, and everybody should respect and bow down to us. Next quality, a very dangerous one, krodhaha, anger. Because when we have a superiority complex, you think you can impose your will on others. And when others don't do as per your bidding, it results in shouting and screaming and throwing things about all the time. A mental modification that expresses itself as mental, verbal, and physical abuse of others. In anger, you harm yourself and others also. This is destructive anger. What about constructive anger? Many people say Rama also got angry when the sea refused to part and allow him passage to Lanka. Even other gods also had anger. First of all, we are not gods. Secondly, constructive anger can be allowed under 2 conditions. 1, it must never be impulsive anger. As I take myself as an instrument, I am the master of my anger. I use that anger to what you call discipline people or to what we call enforce dharma. Number 2 condition is I must be able to drop this anger at my will, or I can postpone at my will. So I'm in total control of the anger and I use it for a positive purpose. Next quality, paurisham. Paurisham means rudeness, harshness, impolite manners, rough character. How they treat their elders, their parents, their subordinates, their workers, using rude and sarcastic language with everyone. So There's an interesting story I heard. Once a man went to visit a Swamiji, and as he was talking to the Swamiji in his house, a funeral procession was passing by. So the Swamiji called another disciple and said, "Go and find out what type of a person this deceased person was. Was he a good person or a bad person?" So the disciple went and came back, and after a while, and reported to the Swamiji, the deceased person was a very bad character. The visitor was surprised. He asked Swamiji, "How could your disciple know the character of this person just by following the funeral procession?" The Swamiji replied, "In a funeral procession, you hear the comments being passed by the mourners, whether they are praising or cursing the person who passed away. In that way, you will come to know the nature of the deceased person. But we should not wait till that time. So we should be very careful. And rudeness is a very negative, a demonic quality." Next quality, ajnanam. Jnanam is knowledge. Ajnanam is ignorance. So, not ignorance of spiritual knowledge, Atma Gyan, but ignorance of all ethical, moral values of life, disregarding all dharmic values and considering them to be unimportant in life. So they do not apply any discrimination in their actions. What should be done, what should not be done. They live their lives according to their whims and fancies. So what are all these 6 qualities? The Lord now summarizes in verse number 4. He says, Abhijatasya. All these qualities are Abhijatasya. They are born. They are born of what? Asurim, demonical, sampadam, nature. So anyone who has more rajasic or tamasic gunas in them, they are expressed in the 6 different qualities. And all the 6 qualities, the Lord says, they are all considered by me to be demonic qualities. And if we have this, it means that we are not going to progress on the spiritual path. Now that brings us to verse number 5. Now that Krishna has elaborated on divine tendencies in humans in verse 1 to 3 and the demoniac tendencies in verse number 4, he summarizes what is the result of such tendencies in this verse number 5. The greatest advantage of Daivi Sampad is that it promotes the right mindset to acquire and retain spiritual knowledge. So the Lord says, what is the culmination of cultivating these divine values and following a lifestyle in which priority is given to dharma and moksha? The Lord says, Daivi Sampad, divine nature, will make you vimokshaya. Vimokshaya means fit to attain liberation. How? Because the more and more divine qualities you have, it gives you purity of mind, it gives you single-pointed devotion to the Lord, leading to steadfastness in acquiring this Atma Gyan or spiritual knowledge. Thus, more and more of these divine virtues you have, it will create the right conditions in your mind that will motivate you to seek knowledge, Atma Gyan, and ultimately attain moksha. But those actions which are asuri, the Lord says here, asuri, demonical, driven by rajasic and tamasic gunas, which are totally opposite to Daivi Sampad, where prominence is given to Artha and Kama, and performing actions which are prohibited by the scriptures are, the Lord says, mataha, considered by me as the very cause of nibandhaya, bondage. Bandham is bondage, but when you put a prefix ni, ni, before that, it means very strong bondage, very difficult to break out of, that will lead a person to spiritual downfall. They bind the jiva to repeated births in this sansara. The more and more qualities you have, which are given in chapter 16 verse 4, the more and more will go further away from the divine path and will lead to repeated births in this samsara. So Krishna has given his conclusion and his opinion of the result of the two opposing lifestyles. And perhaps the Lord realizes that Arjuna may be wondering, where does he stand? Where does he stand on the spiritual path? So he wants to give a reassurance to Arjuna. He says, Ma suchaha, O Arjuna, Ma suchaha, do not grieve. So the Guru has to always give some confidence to the students to keep them positive and don't feel defeated. So he tells Arjuna, Ma suchaha, do not grieve. Asi, you are abhijataha, you are endowed with Daivi Sampat, divine tendencies. You may not have all the divine values, however, you have a reasonable amount of divine qualities, and from here onwards, you will definitely progress on the spiritual path. This is Krishna's assurance to Arjuna, and because as a disciple, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. He asked him for guidance on the battlefield, and we saw that in the very famous verse in chapter 2, verse number 7, Karpanya Dosha. So now we come to verse number 6. Devi and Asuri Sampat have description and result of both qualities have been given. But Krishna wants to elaborate further on Asuri Sampat, on demonic qualities. Why? For divine qualities, he gave us 26 qualities in 3 verses. But for Asuri Sampat, demonic qualities, in verse number 4, he only gave us 6 qualities in one verse. So Krishna wants to elaborate about Asuri qualities, not that we should acquire them, but we should be clearly aware of them and avoid cultivating them. The dangers of Asuric or demonical nature, this is what Krishna wants to alert us on. So the rest of the verses he speaks about this. So the Lord says now in verse number 6, Asmin, in this loke, in this world. He says in this world, Eva, there are only, Eva means only, Dwau, 2 Sargau. There are only 2 types of Sargau. Sargau means creations. So in all these worlds, the 14 worlds, the 14 planes of existence that are there, Lord says all the Bhuta, the word he uses here, Bhuta, all the beings can be divided into 2 Dwau Sargau creations. So Krishna actually is talking about human creations because he's not talking about animals. As animals, insects, plants, they cannot put in any effort to change its nature. The subhava or the nature of all other creations except humans is predetermined. Only human beings can take 2 different paths of personalities, and they have the capacity to change from divine to demoniac or demoniac to divine. So what are the 2 qualities which all the beings can be divided into? Lord says one is Daiva, divine, who has some measure of the 26 qualities, who has followed the path of Dharma, overcome Raga Dvesha, then he or she is of divine nature. Now no human can have all the 26 traits in full measure. Only Bhagwan can have all these 26 qualities in totality. In Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki asked Narad, after giving a long list of virtues, he asked Narad, is there such a human being existing now who has all these virtues? And Narad says, yes, there is such a person who not only has all these virtues you mentioned, but much more of these divine virtues. And that is Lord Rama. So thus for a human being, we should expect to have a reasonable amount of these 26 qualities. So that is the first group that the Lord has said. Among the 2 groups, one is Devi, the second group is Asura, those who have the 6 demonic traits as mentioned in verse number 6. So those who live their lives guided by Raga Dvesha, likes and dislikes, and thus resorted to adharmic life and suppress all the divine tendencies listed by the scriptures, he is truly a demon. So Uh, then he goes on to say, there is also a mention about this in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishads. It is also mentioned there were two classes of Prajapati's sons, the gods and the demons. Naturally, the gods were fewer and the demons more in number. The gods were those who had charity, self-control, compassion. The demons were those who were devoid of these three qualities. That means they do not give charity, they have no self-control, and they have no compassion. So, why is Krishna mentioning all this? Krishna says in this verse number 5, about the Daiva, about the divine people, I have proktaha, I have spoken. Vistarasa, in detail. So Krishna is saying, about the divine qualities, I have given you ample number of divine qualities. 26 divine qualities I have given you in detail. But the Lord says, Asuram, about the demoniacal, I have not given much knowledge. So the Lord says, I wish to elaborate. So now he tells Arjuna, Srunu, listen, me, to me, pay close attention, because these demonic qualities can cause your spiritual downfall. And the Lord will then expand on the nature of the demonic people. So in verse number 7, from verse number 7 to verse number 21 of chapter 16, the Lord will elaborate on the demoniacal or Asuri Sampat. And please keep in mind, a demonic person is one who gives dominance in life to Kama and Artha over Dharma and Moksha. And also one who totally abhors a life of Dharma and Moksha. So the fundamental problem of materialistic or demonic people is that they do not respect the teachings of the scriptures, which talk about a balanced lifestyle. Remember, the scriptures are not against making money and satisfying our desires, but they prescribe the pursuit of money and pleasures by following a foundation, a life of dharma. So with dharma, you acquire your possessions. With dharma, you satisfy your desires. Such pursuit will ensure that not only does a person get material gains, but also at the same time gains inner purity. So both you have. If you pursue Kama and Artha on the basis of Dharma, you will not only get the material gains, but you will also gain inner purity. And this inner purity will in turn drive our interest to gain the ultimate knowledge of self-realization or moksha. Thus, Kama and Artha pursued on the platform of Dharma will culminate in moksha. This is the message of the scriptures. If there is some spiritual awakening in us and we want to reduce our pursuit of Kama and Artha and increase our efforts towards Dharma and Moksha, where are we going to know about how to go about attaining this? We have to take the advice from the scriptures. When there is a desire in us to be a better human being, to pursue the goal of Moksha, obviously we have to take the advice from the scriptures, which teaches us what to do. So the nature of Asuric people is because they are arrogant, they are disrespectful of others. They do not want to take advice from anyone. Neither will they surrender and take advice from the Guru, nor will they bow down and believe in the words of the scriptures. Thus, their lifestyle is guided only by their raga, dvesha, or likes and dislikes. What they think is right, they do. What they think is wrong, they avoid. So the Lord explains here further in this verse here, verse number 7, and now at verse number 7, yes, we are at verse number 7. He says, let me just check this. Okay, we will complete verse number 7. He says here, Asuri, demoniac, janaha. Demoniac, janaha. Janaha means people. The demonic people, they do not vidu. Vidu means they do not know or understand the teachings of the scriptures. And many times you find such people, even though not knowing much about the scriptures, they are ready to constantly criticize the teachings in the scriptures due to their fundamental problem of arrogance thinking They know everything and only their thinking is correct. So, what are the two basic understandings of the scriptures which they teach us? One is called pravrti. The word here used is pravrti. Pravrti means what is to be done, what is the righteous lifestyle to be pursued, right actions, attitude to be undertaken, which are conducive to spiritual growth and by attaining all the four goals of life: dharma, kama, artha, and moksha. So the scriptures teach us on one side pravatim, what is to be done, what is the righteous lifestyle. At the same time, the scriptures alert us to nivritim. Nivritti means what is not to be done. Unhealthy pursuits that bring about a person's spiritual downfall. Unrighteous living, withdrawing from duties and responsibilities. Such lifestyles, they may give us material growth, but they bring us down spiritually. So the Lord says these people don't understand that what the scriptures are trying to tell us about pravritim and nivritim. And next is na saucham. Na, they do not have saucham. They do not have, as a result of not following the words of the scriptures, following the advice of the scriptures, what to do, what not to do, they have na saucham. They have no spiritual purity. They have no inner purity. And na api, nor even acharaha. Acharaha means good conduct in them. They have no humility, they have no compassion due to their greedy, selfish nature. They are only interested in attaining more and more wealth and pleasures and are not considered, they don't consider about welfare of others. So because they therefore are rude, arrogant towards all others, their elders, their workers, sages also, because they consider themselves as superior. And leading a life of satyam, truth, is one of the most fundamental aspects of a divine person. However, for demonic people, selfish people, to achieve their goals and satisfy their desires, they practice a life of untruth. So he says, na satyam, they have no truthfulness, teshu in them, vidyate exists. No sign of satyam in them. They are willing to lie, they are willing to cheat, deceive in order to attain what they desire. But our scriptures have a beautiful saying. Every court in India, at the back where the judge sits, you'll see a beautiful saying which is from the Vedas. It says, Satyam eva jayate. Truth alone triumphs. And this is taken from the Mundaka Upanishad. It's a teaching of all the scriptures. So even chapter 1, verse 1 of Bhagavad Gita begins with the word dharma. And the last word in this verse is Jaya or victory, signifying that only by following a path of dharma can ultimate victory in life be attained. However, the Lord says demoniac people, teshu, in them, vidyate, exists, na satyam, no truth. The scriptures are available to one and all. Why don't these people follow the teachings of the scriptures? Krishna will explain to us in the next verse. So we will end the session today. Hari Om Tat Sat.